tarde. So first, we're going to do an overview, have an introduction from Rush of what goes into naming the streets. Primero vamos a tener una introducción de Rush de lo que es el proceso de nombrar las calles y cómo va a ser. Then we're going to break into our groups. It's going to be small groups again, 2 or 3 people to start a discussion just around names and how they come about. Después vamos a estar en grupitos otra vez, como de 2 o 3 personas. Vamos a hablar de cómo uno nombrar algo y cómo es ese proceso, qué significa. Next, we're going to go a little bit more in depth about how we're going to name Southwood's new streets. Después vamos a hablar en mucho más detalle cómo vamos a nombrar las calles del nuevo Southwood. We're going to break into groups again to have a brainstorm of potential names. Después vamos a estar en grupitos otra vez para tener una lluvia de ideas, para empezar a tener la discusión de cuáles nombres queremos para Southwood. Next, we're going to come back together. We're going to go through some of those ideas and identify themes that are between them. Después vamos a juntarnos, unirnos otra vez, compartir estas ideas, identificar los temas que hay. We're going to be in groups again to narrow it down a little bit more. What are our favorites? What do we like less? Después vamos a estar en grupitos otra vez para hablar de lo que nos gusta, lo que no nos gusta tanto. We're going to have one more group discussion. Después vamos a tener una más discusión en el grupo grande. And then we're going to finish up. Y después vamos a terminar. Last thing, we're going to review translation and how that works and how we can support Marta. La última cosa es que vamos a repasar otra vez cómo funciona la traducción y cómo podemos apoyar a Marta, nuestra traductora. So remember that you need to pick the channel at the bottom of your screen. After I stop screen sharing, it might be more apparent. Tienen que elegir ese mundito que está abajo de la pantalla, donde se puede elegir cuál canal quiere, idioma. Y tal vez va a estar más presente después de yo deje de compartir mi pantalla. Remember to speak slowly if you speak. No se olviden de hablar muy despacio si hablan. And if we do this, y si hacemos esto, this means to please slow down. Esto significa, por favor, hable más despacio. So unless there's anything else, I'm going to pass it off to Rush. Si no hay nada más, yo voy a dar la palabra a Rush.
Thank you, Jordan. Let's make sure translation is working. So, Marta, you are muted.
So we're going to do a test. So if you can hear Marta.
Me in English.
What?
I thought it was funny that you were repeating what I just said in English.
Sorry, I was concentrating on whether or not Marta was.
Can folks hear Marta? If you are on the Spanish channel, please raise your hand. Okay, Gabriela says yes. Mercedes, what's Mercedes?
No sé si no escucho la traducción en español.
Okay. Did you select the little globe? Can someone translate that for her? No one can hear.
¿Elegido el globo, el mundo pequeño al bajo de la pantalla, Mercedes?
No, estoy en el teléfono. Estoy en el teléfono.
Sí, lo sé. Creo que hay algo abajo.
Hay 3 puntitos en la parte abajo, al pie su pantalla.
Dice más y ya lo puse y pongo interpretación de idiomas
Ajá.
y me muestra inglés, español y le puse español
Ujú.
y dice silenciar el audio original, no sé si sea ahí. ¿Puede decirle a Marta si puede traducir a ver si la escucho?
Ok. Ella está hablando.
No, no la escucho.
Hmm.
Solo te escucho a ti.
Hola. Is there someone who could do some troubleshooting with Mercedes on this? I guess she's on her phone.
Sí, tiene que seleccionar el botón ese para seleccionar el audio primero.
Oh, sí.
Ok. Ok. Sí, primero.
Trata
Sí.
eso.
No su micrófono de usted, pero sino los 3 puntos que usted dice que encontró y seleccionar el idioma de español y luego seleccionar la próxima opción.
¿Está funcionando Mercedes ahorita o no? Okay. I think we need to try to keep going with the agenda. Is there someone on our staff who could try to work with Mercedes a little bit more on getting this figured out?
Can I
I can
elect
try to
somebody who,
help.
what was that?
I can try and see.
Okay.
Thank you, David. I think there was a picture from a ways back that you could send if you can find it.
Well, I think
Well, she's not in the app, so it's not gonna be the same.
Martita, yo sí te escucho.
Gracias, Lulu. Well, it sounded like she found all the right steps. Like she hit the 3 dots and she went to the select another language and she selected Spanish. So I think she was super, I don't know, it was super close to being there. So, okay, well, we will carry on in the face of technological adversity, and David may try to reach out to Mercedes to give her some help.
Pueden continuar con la reunión. Igual después, si no me pueden mandar el video y lo veo, igual yo voy a estar aquí presente.
Okay.
Mercedes, voy a tratar de conectarme con mi teléfono y
Ok.
le doy una llamada por teléfono a ver si la puedo asistir.
Ok. Estoy usando mi teléfono.
Está bien, no hay problema.
Ok.
Okay, gracias, David. Gracias, Mercedes. Okay.
Ok.
All right, sorry guys. Technology's super tricky sometimes, isn't it? So moving on, as Jordan introduced and as you guys talked a little bit about last week, this week we're going to focus on this task we have in front of us, which is to name the 3 roads that are in phase 1. So the reason we're focusing on that is it's a requirement of the site plan to have our final site. We need to have named the streets. Right now they're Road 1, Road 2, and Road 3. And for 911 to be able to make sure that there's service, they want to make sure that we have good names for those roads that will work for their purposes. So I know that it has come up in the past, and it is something that we will talk about in the future because it's super important. But tonight we're gonna not.
Hey, Rush. I don't mean to interrupt, but I can't
That's fine.
hear you. You're really
Okay.
low.
Is that a problem for everybody else, or can everyone hear me okay? Okay, can you guys, you might need to turn the volume up on your phones. Can everyone else hear me okay? Okay. So okay, it's come up before, and it's a really important point that in addition to naming the roads, we will ultimately need to figure out what we want to call the whole neighborhood. Meaning we can call it Southwood, we can call it something else, but that is a conversation we are not going to have tonight, because while the roads in phase one are going to really have meaning and impact the people who are in the neighborhood, the renaming or the naming of the whole neighborhood is going to affect the whole neighborhood, right? And so to have that conversation, we need to have a larger group participate, because it has a bigger impact than just on the first phase. So it's super important. We're going to do it. We'll probably do it pretty soon, but tonight we're going to focus in on these roads. We really need to name them because it has this time implication for getting the final site plan into the county. And we're trying to turn that final site plan in early July. So that's why we're focusing now on that. So you guys are going to help us brainstorm tonight. We're going to talk about themes and ideas. And then tomorrow, we aren't coming back together tomorrow. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to frighten everyone. Next Thursday, we will get back together and do some actual voting about which names we want to select. We have 3 roads to name, and in addition, we have to provide 3 alternatives. So if we ask for a certain road name, but it's not something that 911 can or will approve because maybe it's too close to another that already exists or something like that, they want to see some options. So we're going to come up with those first choice and those options, and then we'll vote on them next week. So to get us kind of warmed up and into the this idea brainstorming space, Molly is going to lead us through a small group activity that's going to get all of us thinking about naming.
Yeah. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to send you to your discussion group. And with your discussion group, you're going to start to think a little bit about where names come from, like how people decide on names. So I want you to, with your small group, share either where your own name comes from, or if you've given a name to somebody or something, how did you choose, what name did you choose, and how did you decide on that name? So we're going to start with sharing a little bit about our personal experiences of giving names to start thinking about this topic. So I am going to send you into your first discussion group of the evening. And that's going to happen now. All right, so you should see an invitation to join your breakout group.
Molly, am I not going?
Oh, sorry, you're not going. There weren't enough people. I can actually send you though. Do you want to go to one of them?
I want to hear stories.
Yeah, who do you want to go to?
I don't care. Send me wherever.
Okay. I'm going to send you to Manda's group. Wait, where did she go? Okay.
¿Me escucha Mercedes? No sé si Mercedes nos escucha.
Molly, I couldn't help Mercedes. I logged into my phone and I didn't even see the option to join the group. So,
Thanks for working on it, David, but we worked it out. She was
Oh.
able to connect.
okay,
Well,
nice.
I don't know if the thing is worked out with Martha, but in our small group, at least it worked.
Yeah, in the small group you probably did, but like right now, you'll have to reset the channel and maybe she can join it now. After
Sí te,
you reset.
sí te escucho a ti, David, pero no sé si escucha
Sí.
la traducción.
Ahorita van a poner el canal otra vez de español y ahorita que lo pongan otra vez, a lo mejor ya se va a poder.
Ok, está bien.
Sí, pero ni en mi teléfono no pude, no lo entendí en mi teléfono cómo hacerlo.
Ok, está bien.
Ahí, ¿cómo le hago?
Lucy, we're back in the main room now. Amanda and I forgot to warn you that we were coming back, but
Okay.
in case you're wondering what happened.
Also, Joey, can you hear us from here?
I can hear you. You can't hear me for some reason.
Oh,
We
yeah.
can now we can. Something happened.
I don't know what happened, but every time I talk, nobody can hear me or answer me.
Oh, shoot. We can hear you now. Hopefully in the next small group that doesn't happen, because that hasn't happened before. But I'll check in with you tomorrow so I can get your answers, because I do want to know them.
So, it sounds like there are a few technology problems. Hopefully we've gotten those ironed out a little bit for the next group. Rush, do you want to explain what we're going to start getting into?
Definitely. So did everyone select their translation? Can everyone hear Marta who needs Spanish language? Marta, you're muted, so that might. Nope, you're still muted. Now you're not. Okay, we're good. Okay, so as we just talked about, we were all in different groups. Oh.
Sí.
Okay, got it, good. So we were all in different groups, so I don't know what exactly everyone talked about, but I could guess if it was anything like my group. Some of the things we talked about were how names are this opportunity to pass on important traditions or characteristics or ideas. They carry a lot of meaning, and what's really cool about them is that they always, there's a story behind them, right? There's usually a reason you are named a certain way or you named something a certain way. So naming is a really important opportunity for creating identity, for continuing to support the vision that you might have for a place, for really making yourself feel welcome somewhere. The name can have a big impact on how much you feel connected. And the story that we want to tell by naming our streets a certain way, that can be a story that means something important to us as a community, and it can also tell the outside community something we want them to understand about us, or what we think is important, or what we believe in. So as small as naming a street might seem, it's actually a really great opportunity to continue really claiming this neighborhood as yours and something that's important to you and feels good. So to get ready to start talking about names we like, which is what we'll do in the next small group, I'm going to share some information, some themes around street names that you might see around town or here locally. And what I'm going to invite you to do is, as I talk about these themes and give some examples, if you have an example of a street name that you know of, a street you've lived on, a street you know in town, that you feel like fits within the theme I'm going over, go ahead and add that and kind of add your own thoughts and comments about these various themes as I go through them. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
My staff is nodding at me.
Yeah.
I don't want your ideas, guys. I want the. Okay. So thank you, Lucy. So let's go over some themes. So one big theme that you'll see in street names is you'll see them named after people. So I'll give you an example super close to home for all of us. We all know here in Southwood, or many of you probably know, there's a street called Minor. Some of you may also know that is the last name of the previous owner of Southwood. So that was a way for them to kind of leave a mark, a legacy, by naming a road their own last name. And further, if you drive down Minor Street, you'll actually get to Scott Court. Scott was that owner's son. So it was a way for the owner to also sort of honor their own child. Here in town, you'll also notice things like there'll be a stretch of the street that's named differently from the rest. So 10th Street downtown, there's a segment of it near the hospital that's called Roosevelt Brown Parkway. That was the first Black professional football player from Charlottesville who made it into the NFL Hall of Fame. You may be able to tell that I'm reading that fact because I did not know that on my own. But that's really interesting. And so you can see how naming it after people can also help us remember something that was important to us as a community, a history or a story that we want to carry on, and we want to be able to tell that story to future generations, future people. Because, you know, remember these street names, theoretically, they're going to last a lifetime longer. They're going to go on past our lifetimes. So I don't see anything in any of the chats. So I don't know if anyone has any other examples of people street names, but those are a couple that you might see. So named after historical figures or named after people we really care about, but it's a way to share that history for a really long time. Another theme or category that you might see are natural elements. So again, here in Southwood, Joe says Bernard Drive after a famous writer. So yeah, so like famous type, like people like writers or poets or other people you want to kind of hold up high, lift up and celebrate. So again, here in Southwood for natural elements, everybody's super familiar with Hickory Street, right? Main Street that goes all the way through the neighborhood. Hickory is a tree. So there you have an example of where you've taken something like a tree name or a flower name and you've named the whole road after that particular tree. Fun fact, I don't know if it's fun. A fact is that you may also know that one of the first streets when you come into the neighborhood, when you come past Covenant School, is called Carria Court. Carria Court, Carria, that name, is actually another word for hickory, the same tree. So all plants have a common name. You know, we call it an oak or a hickory or something like that. They also have this much longer, much more complicated Latin name that defines them. So hickory is a type of tree. Carria is the Latin name for hickory. So here in Southwood, we have 2 hickory streets. They're just called something slightly different. Sometimes it's after landmarks or physical features. So for example, I live in a neighborhood. I live at the top of a little hill. And the street that I live on, I had to look this up because I did not know this, is called Loma Lane. And Loma is Spanish for hill. So here I was thinking I had this very unique name for a street, but it's just Hill Street, and I live at the top of a hill. So it was not all that creative, turns out. But you might see things like that too, where here in town, we have Barracks Road. That's an interesting one because there aren't Army barracks there anymore. But at one point, I think I'm not making this up. This is what I've been told. At one point there were, and so that's, it was a big physical landmark. And it also is another example where that physical thing may not be here today, but it tells the history of the place. It tells a story that helps us know something or learn something about the place where we live. Or Court Square is another good example, where that's where the courthouses are. And so it's called Court Square. So you might see it named after something important physically about that road. There's another way that streets are named, which is to help people find their way, to figure out where they are in a city. So if you think of our downtown and most bigger cities' downtowns, you'll see a main street, and then coming off of Main Street in either direction, the streets will be numbered 1, 2, 3, and you'll know it'll be First Street East, First Street West, things like that. And that's to help you figure out where you are in relationship to Main Street, because Main Street used to always have, you know, all the stuff on it. So it would tell you how many streets you were away from the central road. You also in downtowns will see streets go in one direction and avenues go in the other, and they don't ever go in the other direction. And that can help you to figure out where you are in space. Another fact about Southwood that people may not know. If you look at a map of Southwood and you look at that upper edge where all the little streets come off of Bitternut, those little streets are all actually in alphabetical order to help you kind of figure out where you are. So it goes, if you come off of Bitternut and you go up, you come across Abbott, Angler, Bee, Caravan. So it's actually all alphabetical order, so that you can kind of figure out where you are. If you're on Java and you're trying to figure out where you are in relationship to Keyhole, if you can remember the alphabet, you might be able to figure that out. So another way that streets are actually a part of helping us figure out where we are in the world. So those are some of the major themes that you might see around streets: naming it after people you care about or that are famous or whose stories you want to share, the natural elements of trees and flowers, things like that, landmarks like being on a hill or being on a ridge. We have a ridge street in town, right? Or helping you find your way, figuring out where you are in the city. So with that theme introduction, Molly's going to help lead us through another small group discussion where we're actually going to get into talking about ideas we have for street names for these 3 roads. Oh, was I supposed to do the map? I didn't do the map. Shoot. Let me share a map too. Darn it. I missed my note, you guys. Sorry. Let me show you really quickly, because this is going to be helpful, right, for figuring out what we're asking you to do. All right. So everyone can see a map of Southwood, and I think Joanne, and Lucy, I think we got you guys copies of this before.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're looking at the first page now, which is just the general map of Southwood. So again, we're talking about phase 1. And here in phase 1, there are actually 4 roads in total, but we're only talking about 3 tonight because they're the only 3 that we need to name as part of this first village. So I'm gonna highlight those 3 roads for you. Here, so this is Hickory Street here, which is the main road that goes all the way through and goes out of the neighborhood. So road 1 is this big first road. So when you're gonna live in this new neighborhood, you're gonna come in off Hickory Street, and that first right you take to take you down into the neighborhood is road 1. So that's a pretty important road name. It's the first new name you'll see as part of this neighborhood. And it goes all the way from Hickory Street all the way to the very end. You'll see down here to where phase 1 stops. Then there's road 2. Road 2 is this smaller street. Road 2, once you go down it, it's going to have on the left the condos that we keep talking about building that are in this first village. On the right, some of the townhouses. So it's going to be bordered by housing on both sides. And then we've got road 3, and that's the other road that kind of connects roads 1 and 2. It links them together. And you can see road 3 is eventually going to be one of these roads that helps you connect further into the rest of the neighborhood. So it's ultimately going to connect you from road 1 all the way and then keep going up into the future phases of Southwood. So that's roads 1, 2, and 3. Those are the 3 roads that we're going to try to name, or that we're going to start talking about naming tonight. Does anyone have any questions?
Hey, Brush.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, when you come down in the back and you come down
No,
the
yo
hill
solo,
and
yo solo te quería decir, Marta, que ya te escucho.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mercedes. Sorry, go ahead, Rose.
you make that right, what's the name? That's already a road name, right? You're not going to continue that road name?
So our first road that we're building, oh yeah, we have simultaneous translation. Sorry, Rose. I get confused sometimes. So
I know, but see, you come in the back and you come down the hill
Mhm.
and you make that right, like you're going back to those soccer fields back there.
that's right.
It's already a name of, that road is already named. Are we renaming that road?
No, let me share my screen again because I'll show you the difference between what we're talking about. Because so you're talking about share. Can everybody see that now? You are talking about, I'll show on my cursor, Bitternut Lane right here. So Bitternut Lane has trailers on
Okay.
either side of it. So Road 1 is a brand new road that we haven't
Oh,
built yet that's on the
okay.
undeveloped portion. So it has not been named yet. So we have an opportunity there to pick something new or different. Does that help?
Okay. Oh, yeah, because I thought once you came down the hill, you were going to use that same road to go back.
Right.
Drove back, but we're not using that same road.
Nope, brand new road. Road 1 is brand new.
Okay, gotcha.
Good question. Thank you, Rose. Any other questions like that? Like just things I said that weren't clear that you want to get clear before we start talking about naming? All right, Molly, it's all you.
Yeah. So now I'm going to ask you to go back. You'll be with your same group this time that you were last time. And I'm going to ask you to start brainstorming some names that you want to suggest. And you should just throw out any idea you have. At this point, we're not trying to rule anything out or decide now. We're just trying to get as many ideas as possible out there so that then we have a lot of options to work with when we start to narrow the list down. So just put as many, there is no bad suggestion or wrong suggestion at this point. Say anything that comes to your mind. And I will say that I would like for each person to make at least 2 suggestions. So for some of the quieter people, I want to give you a heads up, but we want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to at least give some of their ideas. So I'm going to give you 15 minutes to talk about that, and your facilitator will write down all the suggestions that you throw out there. And when you come back, we will take a look at the list.
Joanne,
yeah.
If I'm just gonna talk to Joanne real quick. Joanne, if you have another problem with speaking in our group, she left. Hang up and call back in. Okay, never mind.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
So you can hear me now.
Yep, I can hear you now.
We're in the main.
Good.
We're back in the main meeting, Joanne. So I don't know what's going on with the.
Oh, we could hear her this last time.
Oh, okay, good.
She had to do a bunch of
Sí, Marta.
work, but
Rush, I'm gonna hand it over to you so I can mix up the groups for the next discussion, okay?
sounds great. Okay, it looks like Joe's still typing. Joe's still doing her note taking.
So we need to reset the Spanish channel.
I know that Mercedes is back on it, but
You have to
go ahead.
reselect it, but you don't have to.
Got it.
So, si necesita traducción, por favor, elige el globito en la pantalla. Can everyone hear Marta who needs translation? Okay, great.
Sí, Marta.
Perfect. Okay, well, that was fun. I had fun. Did you guys have fun? I hope you did. Finding where I am. So let's look. So what we were doing as we were having our small group discussion, your group facilitator was taking notes, and we have a list. Let me double check. So we have a list that we can look at. I'll share my screen in just a second, and we can actually look at some of the ideas that came out of your discussions. I'm just making it a little bit more readable. All right, so let me share my screen and you guys can see what you came up with. All right, so folks, someone give me a thumbs up if they can see there's the screen now. Nobody's giving me a thumbs up that I can see. Okay, Marta's giving me a thumbs up. Thank you, Marta. Molly's just staring at me blankly. All right, so let's look at some of these ideas. And so we don't know who all these suggestions came from. We kind of mixed it all up. So these are all just all in there together. So I think I see,
Rush.
oh yeah, yeah?
Is there something you can do to make that, can everyone else see the screen? Is it plenty big for everybody else?
Do you want me to zoom in a little bit?
Maybe, if you could make it a little more readable.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Go with this magic. Are we getting there, folks? Better?
Thanks.
Good? Okay. All right, so I'm going to
Marta.
Perfect. I'm going to do some quick, just kind of skimming. So I'll say, thinking about those themes that we talked about, I'm seeing a lot of names that are for plants. Oh, did we have 2 Obama streets? All right. We have 2 Obama streets, and I haven't even made it all the way through the list. Okay. So, oh, and Bruce, the architect, that's kind of fun, right? He did a lot for us. So, oh, and we got a Wardell too. Somebody knows his last name. That's amazing. Tony Bennett. Was that you, Joe? Is that?
No, that was Richard.
Don't out people, Joe. I'm just teasing.
Oh, sorry. Oops. That was not me.
So I'm seeing some really fun examples of people, right? So we see a lot of those people themes, people that are either personally important to us at Southwood, or people that we think are historically really important. So I saw the Lovings, right? One loving could also go into the category of, a sentiment or an idea that we like. Obviously, like, I think loving is probably something that we would characterize the community as. And then also for these very important historical figures that pioneered the opportunity for couples to get married regardless of their race, which for a long time in this country wasn't legal. So it's a really cool story to get to tell with our streets. I also see a lot of physical characteristics or natural things that are particular to our area. So I saw, a lot of different birds and plants and trees. So I've seen cardinal, I've seen dogwood. Those are also the state trees and birds. So it's really specific to Charlottesville and to the state of Virginia. I saw pine at times. I'm seeing some other names for ideas that we really like. So Unity first, right? Because this is the first neighborhood. Arcoiris is rainbow. So that has a lot of sentiment of like a new start or fresh start for folks. I really love that Bruce got so many shout outs in this. I think that's really fantastic. More plant names. So you can see a lot of those themes that we talked about. We're seeing those same themes kind of come out in the names that you guys are drawn to. some local figures, Bobby Banks, Chris Long. Some of these, it's going to be what's really cool about this is I don't even know the stories necessarily behind all of these names. And so it gives us an opportunity to really tell a story about what is important to us as a neighborhood or who we want to honor. Talking about picking names that you aren't going to be embarrassed by. So I think that probably has to do with people names, being careful that we don't pick people that, I think that's just really in the news right now, right? Where turns out maybe some of the things we chose to name things after are things we don't like as a culture and a community anymore. So I think that's a really important note. So I think we're seeing a lot of those themes come out and be really popular with the neighborhood. So with that, with those ideas, so that you guys can kind of see what your friends and neighbors are thinking, I'll let Molly lead into the next group activity.
Yeah, so I mixed up the groups. So you're going to have a little bit of a different group this time from the one that you originally came up with your list with. And what I'm going to ask you to do is in your group, start talking about, now that you've seen all of these ideas that people have come up with, what are you liking the most and why? And what story do you want to tell with the names of the streets? We don't need to pick the options tonight. We're going to be doing voting next week, but we want to hear from you. What are the themes or the ideas that are most important to you? And if there is something that really stands out, what is it about that name that stands out? So I'm gonna also remind the facilitators to share your screen, share the list on your screen with your group so that people can keep looking at the list as you're having this discussion. And I'm gonna give you about 10 minutes to chat as a group. So here we go.